Paul's body is looking this morning? Are they ready, and can they deliver credible polls to Kenyans?
Thank you very much for that question. I know IBC has just been reconstituted the other day.
Okay.
And set off to carry out the business, the electoral business, quite late. And within that time, I think they also found their tray full, because there were by-elections for them to conduct.
Okay.
And I think unless they hasten their feet, it will be tricky for them to meet the demands of 2027 elections, because there's a lot that is lacking, and they have to sit down in those boardrooms and discuss and come out with solutions, knowing that we're behind when it comes to the boundaries delineation and delimitations. We are actually behind with that one. We are short of funding. You've had them complain about the short fund. The little funds they've been receiving, compared to what they have actually they had projected that they would require for proper preparation.
Okay.
Or towards the 2027 elections, management of the 2027 elections. So when you look at such, again, the political hand that is really being seen in play, especially when it comes to registration, it means that is a malpractice that is already showing up.
Okay.
And with that imminence, it means that if they don't change and choose to go by the rules and regulations and the laws set for the management of elections in Kenya, then and they continue acting on impunity, because I'm accusing them of what has been spoken by many who have found themselves dispositioned, and many other things that took place, the opening up of the eastern boundary of Kenya, allowing Africans, people from all corners of Africa, to come to Kenya without visa. And again now, seeing that people from countries like Burundi and Rwanda and Congo are now having authentic ID cards, you know, it explains a lot of what is being planned. That's on the political side, and that depends on how strong the chairman of the IBC plus his commission would be, or principled, so that they are not twisted to act to the whims of one side of the political divide. So what we are looking at is that it's a big challenge, because when you hear such complaints, it means that is already a foretaste of their kind of rigging that we would expect in 2027.
Okay. Let me, before I let you go, IEBC has a responsibility to deliver credible elections to Kenyans. That responsibility is their responsibility. But at the same time, we know the game of politicians. They just love to use people, use institutions to climb the ladder into the leadership. And do you think the IEBC that we have today have crossed that threshold that they can do the right thing, be responsible without being used? Because we are not new in Kenya, and we know politicians have a game they play, and they would want to use every institution, use even the police, use even the IEB itself, try to manipulate it so that now they can ascend onto power. The chairman, the chair of IEBC, and then the commissioners, and also the secretariat, do you think they are above that threshold?
That question is good, been very relevant, because quite relevant, because we are here discussing leadership, and the chair of the IEBC must demonstrate leadership as a character, And the character of leadership we are looking into is him being principled as an individual.
Okay.
Because the law is on paper.
Okay.
But the implementation is on persons and personalities.
Yes.
So if his persona is not endowed or is not really trained to exercise integrity, then we lose out. And I'll give an example. There was a gentleman called Isaac Hassan. And Isaac Hassan is one of the better examples, not the best examples, the better examples of the IBC chairman or chair that has actually managed the elections with principle. Because there was a team that actually preferred to have Isaac Hassan manage the 2017 elections. But little did they discover, 2012 I think, 2012, 2017, little did they discover that Isaac Hassan has taken a ground that actually commits him to adhere to the law and also the regulations set. And so he knew that sitting at the helm, the buck will stop at him. And somehow he was credible in the manner which he handled issues. And I can tell you, his character as a person, he was a down-to-earth person. And so it was very easy for him to manage elections because any complaint that would come to him, regardless of how it was, he would not delegate, and personally experienced this, he would not delegate any complaint to the juniors or anybody else. He would involve them maybe while you're seated there, but this gentleman allowed himself to either attend to your complaints on the ground or attend to you in his office. He had time for these things. And not really talking about too much about him, but I think he qualifies when we talk about somebody who is who actually respects his principles, dignity and integrity. So if Edagon, I don't know his name, I never pronounce it very well because I've not caught it so right. Ethekon.
Yes.
Mr. Ethekon, if he does not become Ethekon himself, forces for coercion, forces that will influence him financially or any other way, they will come into play. And so he has to make up his mind and choose to serve the people with dignity. And serving the people with dignity is obeying the rule of law, which is what is highly expected of him. If he does that change to himself and not look at the appointing authorities that really recommended him, because of course the opposition does not claim favor from him. If he comes in as a person who is clothed in the robes of those who prefer the government side, then Ethekon will not really meet the standard.
Okay. Let me bring in our brother John Kabuki, and let's talk about, when we talk about the independence of IEBC, exactly what are we talking about? What should we be expecting from them, even as they lead us and conduct this? And what do you think they can learn from mistakes of previous chairpersons, commissioners? Because I think in Kenya there are people who, within the politicians, who will want to get it, whether by hook or crook, they just must get it. And they have money. They are very well oiled financially. When we talk about independence, what are we expecting of them? And what should they learn? And what mistakes should they not do, according to their predecessors?
So those are different questions. Let me start with the independence question.
Yes.
So independence is established in three ways. The first one is in operational matters, including budget. Your ability to do what is expected of you as an organization based on the fact that you are well financed, you are well set up, you are well equipped. My brother has covered it well. This particular IEBC got in very, very disadvantaged. They were not able to, provide you know, let's back up. The leadership of IEBC was not put in place within the time necessary for them to fully execute on their constitutional mandate.
Okay.
There are boundaries that are set in terms of timelines. There are boundaries that are set in terms of mandate. There are boundaries, for example, the delimitation of boundaries in one of their key deliverables, and then voter registration, another deliverable, voter education, civic education, another deliverable, and then the conduct of elections. So they already came in late, and that already they started when they didn't have sufficient time. Now, there was what I would call a proof of concept, which means they had by-elections, and I believe they had lots of lessons learned from those by-elections.
Okay.
The mistakes that were made, what went right, what did not go right, and lessons learned from that they can borrow in terms of refining their processes. So the first cornerstone of independence is the ability to have a budget and to have operational, let's call it holistic operational readiness. And in all those areas, they have not been given the independence that is necessary, because like my brother noted, the budget that they asked for, they were not given, and they're in this tug of war with the essentially the legislature to approve those budgets. And then the leadership of the IEBC, the commissioners and the chair, they were not elected in good enough time, and they appointed in good enough time. And most importantly, they got to the ground running, and it was very tough for them. The other aspect of independence is now from a legislative point of view, because the legislature is responsible both from a legal point of view, enacting the laws that do govern electoral processes in this country. We've talked about budgeting, that's another responsibility, and then accountability and giving them what they need. Again, they are not fully independent, because when the legislature, these things are supposed to be automatic. When the Constitution says you're supposed to have this leadership in place at a certain time, that is not negotiable. When the Constitution says you need X years from the next election to have the boundary delimitation, then that is not negotiable. When it says the IEBC is supposed to perform role 1, 2, 3, 4, that is also not negotiable. But you see, again, and that independence is also a form of interference, because when you appoint somebody to do a job and then you don't give them everything they need, the tools they need to conduct that job, then there is a problem there. The final aspect of independence now comes in terms of how you exert authority. These are the leadership skills that are necessary for you to manage everything. That role is very political, it's very volatile, it's highly sensitive in terms of the nation and its affairs, and you need a lot of well-honed leadership skills. Now, we talked about the chair. The chair has a background. One, he's a lawyer, a very well qualified lawyer.
Okay.
He has everything up to master's degrees, not just in the original track, which was law, but also in project management and the field, including even things like oil and gas. He's a very well, he's very well schooled. He, he went to school abroad and worked, internationally. Actually, his last posting was with the African Union.
Okay.
But now in terms of IEBC, he has a lot of experience, because in that period between 2000 and 2010, he was working for or engaged by one of the development partners within the UN system to actually go in and help the IEBC perform its mandate. He has a background that many people don't know, which is that a lot of the reforms in the electoral processes that were being driven largely by development partners and government involvement as well, he was part of that, and he was involved in that. So he's very passionate about that. Now, in terms of exercising that mandate and that role. It remains to be seen. One, it's good that they've not been as vocal as they could be. They seem to be working a lot, and when you see what goes on in terms of voter registration, we had the numbers produced recently. I believe there were like 344,316 new registrants done within the 4 days they reported of that fast-tracked exercise. Out of a total of about 600,000 new voters, they are doing their best, they are trying their best. But now his role will be tested, especially in the next election for the first time, because sometimes only after the fact can you review in retrospect how people are able to do their jobs. So I would say it's still up in the air in terms of how they will deliver. People perception, unfortunately, in matters of leadership and especially in such sensitive roles, perception by many is treated as reality, how people view you. So when my brother talks about there's a perception that already there are anomalies being seen, you'll hear them. There's a bill right now in Parliament to register students and give them ID, and that's a registration of persons issue, and it will be an amendment. You don't know what will be squeezed through that, especially in a parliament which seems to largely be under the control of the executive. Now, the good news and the, every cup that is half empty is also half full. The good news and the silver lining is that if you look at the last election, the government machinery and everything that was expected to happen in what people call the system was still not able to overcome, again, what was the will of the people as expressed in the election. So there was a lot of drama and people expected things to go the government way, and they did not. So that's a good thing, because again, if the chairman puts his foot down, again, he's a lawyer, he's a good, he has all the tools he needs and all the skills. The ability of him and the commissioners to deliver a credible election will largely depend on how that third aspect of independence we talked about, the ability to exert your influence, exercise it well, execute on your mandate, and push back on these political games. Now, the larger part is on the public. Now, I like what the young people are doing, everything from Tukokadi and very vocal use of technology to hold and broadcast the message. We're going to hold the government and also the electoral body accountable. You will hear young people even talking about having special colored T-shirts for every, particular polling station or in a particular area, so that people can't just import new voters and things like that. Yes. So that level of accountability is very necessary, and the more the public pushes back at any attempts at anything that looks fishy, the more the public is vocal. They help the IEBC, because public pressure helps. Public pressure yields results, and what is usually in media, it's called there are matters of either public debate or public interest. They go a long way in helping that body exercise its mandate. So in addition to them stamping their foot down and their authority and independence, the members of the public also have a role, the voters themselves, to be vocal when things don't. You had recently people saying, we registered, and then I suddenly find myself, I'm not registered for the polling station I registered for. It's either showing blank, or some people are finding themselves in other areas of the country. So the more people speak up about these things, it helps.
Okay.
Yes.
The pitfalls that have befallen their predecessors.
Yes.
I think they are worthy mentioning this morning.
Yes.
And so that they can throw the right caution into place. Yes.
Like my brother mentioned, there's only one living former chair of the IEBC who's alive.
All the others are gone.
All the others are deceased. Going into such a job, I pity my brother Erastus. His full name is Erastus Edung Ethekon. And going into a job where all your predecessors are deceased except one who left the office, and like my brother said, he had a different way of going around things. That's a major pitfall, because it doesn't augur well. And sometimes, like the last chairman, the former chairman, Dr. Wafula Chebukati, you know, he had health issues, but you know, the stress that goes with that job, you literally see somebody aging in front of your eyes, kind of like the U.S. presidents. They have the before and then the after,
Yeah.
and somebody comes into the office looking young and vibrant and, you know, almost, you know, with the juvenile strength. And by the time they are leaving office, you know, you can see the stress on their face. They've aged and there's an impact to their health.
Yeah.
So the pitfalls of that job are many. They're always the boogeyman every time something goes on. And the problem with this country, and only the voters can change this, is there's a lot of deception, misinformation, disinformation that goes with politics. So people can just stand up and say anything, and always they're pointing at the IEBC. So for example, if somebody loses an election fairly, they'll still say, oh, the IEBC did this, the IEBC. So that's why I was saying the public really needs to protect this body so that it can deliver on its mandate. Does that mean the politicians will not try to exert influence? Of course not. They will try to exert influence. They'll put that pressure. They'll keep calling IEBC. You see, every time they announce anything, even if it's a good thing, they say, hey, we've conducted an audit, anything before 2012, you know, didn't enter the biometrics election, the biometric system that's necessary for voter registration and the voting itself. People poke at it from all sides, and people take their vested interest perspective in questioning the IBC. So I think as citizens, we need to help that organization rise beyond that, because part of the pitfalls is that you're always being hit right, left, center, you know, top, down, and anything you do is questioned. Does that mean they're above reproach? No. They still have to be held accountable. And like I said, they haven't delivered an election yet, and they'll be judged by how they deliver the next election. They came into it with, and those are the pitfalls as well. When you go into a job where you're already late to deliver on your mandate, you didn't have the right leadership skill, you know, leadership in place, you know, to govern. And then the CEO stepped down at some point. You know, they had that pitfall as well. I mean, these jobs are very difficult, and if people could actually empathize with that level of pressure, then they would understand that in some ways the IEBC does try, you know, to get the job done. But again, only the public can create the requisite pressure on one side, and then that public interest sustained in anything that's going on within the IEBC, and that will help them to do their job. Yes.
Wow, amazing. So maybe to help Kenyans and many people that are watching, we by now we are expecting the secretariat and the chairman to be speaking to Kenyans. Why are they not speaking to Kenyans, Moredi? Because when they come to begin to be active and speaking later, people say they are being pushed by somebody, because it's a functioning office. The chairman is a chairman, whether he came yesterday or he came this morning. But he should be telling something and reassuring Kenyans that we are on top of this. We are trying to do the much we can do. Why are they not talking out? Because I've not had their communication lately.
Well, if you now that you brought it up, you've noticed that even civic education itself, IBC has not started conducting any civic education.
Why do you think they're keeping quiet now?
The reason why they're quiet is I think they would actually claim that they are still working within the basics and you know, laying the groundwork of their work that is ahead of them. So they could claim to be in the boardrooms rightly because they still have that short time that they are in office. However, it does not justify or exonerate them from any blame because the Secretariat has been in this business ever since the last elections. And that is what I was saying. When it comes, because I don't know from which clause of the law that it's actually stated that it is the IBC chairman who is supposed to conduct the alterations of the voter registration, as in cleaning up the voters register. Yes, yes. Because that is the work of the IEBC. And the IEBC operates through that secretariat. The employees, the people who are employed actually to serve within the IEBC in the presence or in the absence of the chairman. So the management of the register was supposed to be a continuous process, because like I said, it is a relationship between the IEBC and the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, who know who has left and who has come in, you know. And all these data is actually collected and collated by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics and actually stored by them. So when the IEBC itself, I was trying to think while speaking. Maybe remind me the question again.
The question, yeah, why they are not communicating?
The reason why they are not communicating.
Yes, and yeah.
I was saying is because could be they have a lot of things maybe to do that I'm only trying to justify their silence, but they ought to be running adverts and seminars right now with the budget that they have to ensure that Kenyans understand what they're talking about. You don't make a declaration that you will alter the register of members, I mean, voter register of members who have been casting their ballots since 2012, you know, through the biometric and the manual record. They have been there, and then you claim that there is going to be an alteration of about 2 million voters. That explains a lot, because they never came out to explain why 2 million, you know. And when you look at it and put the statistics together with what was projected, with maybe the strategy for allowing the eastern border to be opened,
Yes.
and registration for citizenship without vetting, those are the kind of things that explain to you that because that the number that is supposed to be dealt out of the register is supposed to match the one that comes in.
Okay.
Those are the kind of things that
right.
we're looking at. So I think the IEBC itself has not prepared itself to do the communications, but they ought to be doing communications since the commission was actually instituted. They should be doing it time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a hitch.
John, one of the pitfalls that befell the former IEBCs previously was division of the commissioners. And looks like politicians try to plant their people and sacred cows. So that there is like there are people there who are commissioners, but it's like they have a bigger say because of who brought them to IEBC. What should the chairman do to rein on his commissioners so that there will be no double speak and there will be no somebody else speaking on behalf of him? And or how can he rein on them? And I think that is the word.
Yes. So the first one, let me go to the last discussion, because I am aware of some things the IEBC is doing. For example, they've been training all their field officers to conduct not only the election itself, but also the voter registration and also the civic education. So to give them credit,
So
I am
there is
aware.
movement.
I am aware
Why
they're
is it
doing
so
a lot
silent? Why is it so
Well,
because
yeah.
it's a matter of public interest.
Yes.
Why are they not telling Kenyans to reassure them?
So on one side, I would give them the benefit of a doubt, because like you said, when your hands are full, when you come in too late to the game and you have so much to deliver, you know, there's talking and then there's doing. So, you know, they seem to have quickly caught up with a lot of what they were needed to have done by now. And when you're doing that, you have very little time to talk and only time to act. So there I would give them certainly the benefit of a doubt, because I am aware, for example, even when the budget shortfalls are there, they reach out to development partners who, you know, can you help us with this? Can you help us out with that?
Okay.
But now to answer, and they have also beefed up, because part of speaking is media engagement.
Okay.
So I happen to know that they have beefed up their media and communications team ready for that. I happen to know, for example, that they've set up ready for exactly what you're asking, a sort of you know, war room. Yes,
Okay.
communication center, and those kinds of training and setup are going on there. So they would give them the benefit of a doubt, because I would rather they be working than be talking.
talking.
We have enough talking heads in
That's
this
good.
country,
Right.
and we need more of action. Now, to your actual question, the former chairs have, they've undergone. Let me say, like I said, the job is so stressful because on one side, by the time you're being appointed, the commissioners you're given, the manner in which they're appointed, like you correctly stated, they come from the interests that control the party or around the party that is in power at that time. So if it's a coalition government, for example, they say half of these guys will go to, if it's all the way from the days of Nusum Kate, where people competing political sides come together, or the days of the handshake, or these days of broad-based government, whatever you want to call it. When appointments come, people are nominated based on those political alignments. And that's where the trouble comes, because a house divided cannot stand. Okay. So, for example, you saw the so-called Cherera 4 versus, those who are under, the chairman, Wafula Chebukati. When you saw those differences, it was clear they reflected certain political alignments. Okay. We've seen cases in the past where commissioners have even either exited, resigned, been removed, or even left the country. So there's always been drama, intrigue, and all kinds of machinations behind that. So your question was, what can the chairman do to rein in that and manage? This is where your leadership skills come in. Okay. This is where your, like I said, your qualifications come in. He has been working with that electoral body for just over 20 years in different capacities. Even ran, many people don't know, when the former executive, Mr. Ezra Chiloba, became the executive, he was one of those who had applied for that CEO job. So this is somebody who has enough background with the organization to know how it runs, the machinations, the political setup. Like I said, he has international experience, he is a lawyer, and he has sufficient tools to do the job. The question is, as you correctly observed, by the time these divisions or cracks are being seen, there's usually somebody tilting their thumb on the scale, trying to get the person who they brought into the commission to act, consistent with their vested interest. That means there's always political affiliation between the commissioners and who brought them to the table, as you will. So
okay, again, actually, where you have come is a place I really desired you come.
Yes.
And really, because you are there, you answer it now.
Yes.
Should it be so? Because I think the people that are selected for IEBC, and finally they are given the chance to serve Kenyans on that level, they should not come there, although they are sponsored from parties. The job description itself, and I am happy you are talking about leadership.
Yes.
Should they be listening to the people who appointed them? Is that the ideal?
No.
Okay.
And even before they even get there and listen to the people who brought them to the table, we have a problem with how we do appointments in this country. Now, some people argue that it's the preserve of whoever gets into power and whoever gets into parliament, the representatives of the people, based on their political alignment, to nominate leadership in certain roles.
Yes.
But we are suffering in this country because of that, because it's no longer merit-based. It's who you know, who you are affiliated to, which party brought you to the table. Even when nominations are done for any role, we see a lot of grandstanding and gamesmanship around that. Now, when you get into office, you suddenly inherit three things. Number one, you have constitutional mandates and responsibilities. Number two, you are held individually and corporately accountable. And number three, you are supposed to execute on your job without fear or favor and following the laws of Kenya. So these commissioners are meant to be held to account based on those three standards.
All right.
So we have a challenge there, and again, it all points at the rot that the political ecosystem has become in Kenya. And the voter, I always say, if this was an organization, the voter is the board of directors who appoints the executive. They have a responsibility in determining and driving and putting pressure and drawing boundaries and lines and saying, we need merit-based. And this is why, the last thing I will say, Kenyan politics largely has been based on tribe. tribal affiliations, where you come from, regions. Even these parties are organized around that. But we need to move to issue-based politics, because that is where you find merit.
Okay.
When it's a meritocracy, when it's based on merit, which means the best person qualifies for the job. For example, those jobs ideally should be advertised publicly, and anybody who's qualified applies. I do know, for example, I pointed out the case of the current chairman as a perfect example, because of his past experience working with the body, working with development partners, and then he didn't get the CEO job, then he applied for the chairman job. You can see some element of merit in that. So there are times, and he wasn't the most popular candidate. I remember the guys who were in front of him. You had people like, Mr. Nyachai, for example. You had Anna Madi was also competing for that role.
Yeah.
So something seems to have worked somehow, and now the onus is on that chair and then the commission that he leads to deliver and show. So the direct answer to your question is, these people should disconnect, because once you're in, unless now the people in power decide to remove you, and then you can speak up, which has happened in the past, but they should act against, they should push back against that kind of pressure, and they should act based on their conscience, based on the constitution, based on the law, and their individual and corporate mandate to deliver for the people of Kenya.
And so it's up to the commissioners and the IEBC as a whole to prove that they are worthy their salt.
Absolutely.
But when I'm ready, before we move on to the next item of conversation this morning, there's this high octave current in Kenya, 2-term, 1-term, 2-term, 1-term, because it's us to discuss here, why do we have elections if 2-term is obvious? And why do we have election if 1-term is obvious? And I think a conversation, and somebody must tell Kenyans why we have elections is so that as we go to elections, we will not allow the undercurrents, political undercurrents, to sweep us to fail in our also own role as citizens, because also as citizens, we have a role to elect good leaders. But if we allow the undercurrents and overtones and all this, and then we lack our own stand, so I want you to talk about 1-term and 2-term. Why does there seem to be an entitlement? Why has it never happened in Kenya? And do you think this could be the time it will start? And what is the ideal situation? Should it be obviously 2-term? Okay, take it up.
Well, politics is a dirty game because politics is a competition. And so sloganeering is not something that we can avert. It's there. And it comes about to discredit your opponent. So when you come up to say they don't have ideas, or they don't know what they're doing, they are clueless, that's good for their side. But this other side also has to have something to say. And what Kenyans are supposed to look at is, what is the basis of the 2-term and what is the basis of the 1-term
exactly
slogan?
Really, that's where I wanted you to come, because I do not want you just to see 1-term as a slogan or 2-term as a slogan. But there's a real issue behind all this.
Thank you.
Towards, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Where does the 2-term sit upon or built upon?
Okay.
The basis of the 2-term, the basis of the 1-term.
Yes, yes.
If the 2-term has got something that is of benefit to the citizens, then it is worth being commended and upheld. If the 1-term is saying something that that is reasonable and achievable, and would be correcting the other side, the other side's principle, or movement or projects or something they're actually carrying out, because they are running the country at the moment. If they have an alternative idea that seems better for every other Kenyan, then that becomes the basis of agreeing, because this is just a uniform that people are wearing. that we are like-minded. Now, today, we're reading from the papers that SHA owes, is struggling to pay county hospitals 8 billion shillings.
8 billion.
8 billion shillings. Struggling means they're not able to pay so far.
Okay.
And the same opposition has been telling you that SHA is not going anywhere. It will not work because of reasons A, B, C, D. And there is also being a prediction that the SHA system will collapse before or by June. Now, when you look at what is happening currently, unless the government steps in with money that maybe was not meant for that, and overlook the 104 billion shillings that was meant to ensure that this does not happen, then it means SHA is headed for collapse. If it's spoken by a one-term person, I should give it a thought, regardless of who speaks it, or says it. Whether it's the president or it's somebody in the opposition or somebody in the what do you call it, the bunge la mwananchi, I should give it a thought. What I'm trying to say is that what is the basis?
Okay.
If I listen maybe to the president saying that you should show us what you have been able to do, of course you're telling them to spend their pocket money in doing affordable housing while you're using our money to do affordable housing. If I choose to reason, with that kind of intelligence, then I can say you're taking me for a fool. So I can't listen to you criticizing others while others are giving you credible information, because when they tell you that SHA is going to collapse, if I'm a leader, I'm supposed to call my team and see how we can salvage that situation as a leader on this other side. So I don't take it as criticism. I take it as an advice, because the opposition are Kenyans and the government, pro-governments, are also Kenyans. So what I'm trying to say here is that the one-term, two-term is a representation of ideas and ideologies. The two-term also is a representation of ideas and ideologies, because it is about what they have done,
Yes.
how far they've taken it, and it is for this, the responsibility of these others to check the standards and also the thresholds, whether they have met.
Yes.
And also whatever they project to do, whether it's viable, whether it's going to benefit Kenyans in either way. So the slogans should not be an issue in any way.
All right.
Because we had no problem as Kenyans listening to Obama saying, yes, we can. Of course we can, And people saying that what you're doing based on 1, 2, 3, 4. You heard what Senator Metho represented the other day. He presented the projects that had been initiated while the president was a deputy president. He came again, reinstalled those. Reinstalled the project again.
Okay, yeah.
Once again, asked the president, and at the time when Senator Metho was talking, nothing had been done or nothing much had been accomplished. They were supposed to be completed by the time. That is a credible criticism. It's constructive, and that is why I'm saying, when I listen to him talk, and somebody else says, no, you don't criticize the president or you don't criticize the MD, yet the MD is wrong. And the company is falling because of that laxity and lack of responsibility. We are saying that, or misappropriation of misappropriated responsibilities. What I'm trying to say is that the slogans should be there, should continue, they should work, because in any case, they psych up the like-minded.
Okay. All right. Wow. For me, I am thinking a little bit way beyond the slogans. I know slogans play very key roles in politicking and all that. Like in the U.S., I think now when we talk about Trump, we talk about MAGA, the MAGA, make America great again. And then yes, we can make it, or yes,
we can.
Yes, we can. But behind the two-term, let's give it the real meaning behind the two-term, because I think like two-term or one-term is just a cover-up. And we want now to discuss the real thing behind it. It's about approval. Any leader that has been in office and is seeking a second term is about approval. Are you approved? And this election will be like an approval test. Are Kenyans happy with your leadership, or they are not happy with your leadership? And it's very easy, and I know politicians want us to catch the song and begin to sing the chorus. But I think in a forum like this one, we are refusing to sing the chorus. We want the issue behind it, and it should be about approval of men that have been leading us. Have they done the right thing? And let me throw it to you, Bwana John Kabuki, because when we Kenyans elect people into offices, they elect them purely for services. You are lifting your finger?
I'm lifting my finger because I wanted to make a clarification.
Yes.
So that it doesn't go as hazy as it seems. When I listen to the issues running around,
Yes.
like the empty Paloma, the oil crisis that we are in, a boat docked on 2nd March has been there on 2nd March and 3rd March. It took 2 days to offload it. And we are in April by the time the opposition spoke. That is towards 20th, around last week. So when the opposition came to speak, the oil that is said not to have been up to standard was already in Busia. That's not criticism. That is informing Kenyans how things are running, and they're not running right. Today, they are still justifying that it should have been a project that was meant for Kenyans.
Okay.
A bill has been called for.
Okay.
It was actually meant to be a 4 billion worth of the stock, of the cargo. 4 billion. Today, it's 11.8. Another 8 billion added. Another scandal upon a scandal. The ship had been diverted from going to Angola and diverted to Kenya. You get the point?
Okay. Yes,
now,
yes, yes.
when a government that is in place, which has intelligence, reacts 2 months later,
Okay.
it shows you that the guys on the other side of the opposition could be saying something.
Okay.
And so
All right.
when they say this and qualify it with the shares and everything that I've spoken about, it tells you that you guys need not to be in office. So they claim 1 term.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying.
Okay.
It's not easy. It's not easy. We must love the prophets of our land. It's not easy, again, to say that, yes, we can understand what the Americans are doing, but we cannot understand what Kenyans are doing. What Kenyans are doing with 1 term and 2 term is as a slogan for psych, and it's very, very important to keep them in sync.
So
the young people, Gen Zs today, are too cockady, and they are moving on very well.
And we
today
just blow the cover. We blow the cover, and we go to the real
Today
issue.
we are 1.3 million voters
We are
through
going to
to
rubber
Kokadi.
stamp the leadership of somebody,
Yeah.
or we are going to approve or disapprove somebody. Are Kenyans aware? And are Kenyans going to this election with that kind of thinking? Leave alone the 2 term, the 1 term, because that's just a song. But the issue is, after 5 years, in the 10 years that a president is allowed to rule, or a governor is allowed to lead, this election becomes crucially important, if I can so speak. And that is a point we need to make very clear to Kenyans and begin to stir up Kenyans to arise, because we have this election to either approve or disapprove.
Yes.
And we should do it without pity for anybody, because if you have not done for the first 5 years what we expected you to do, we have disapproved your leadership, and we vote. Are Kenyans aware of this?
So
Bwana Kabuki.
let me break it down from the basics. What you're really asking about is the term itself, the first term of a president and the second term of a president.
Yes.
If you break it down from the leadership basics, this is a job interview.
Okay.
So there are 2 kinds of job interviews in this context. The first time that somebody runs for office as President of the Republic of Kenya, that is the first interview where they've never held that role before. You may have been deputy president, may have been a minister, you may have been a member of parliament, a governor, an MCA, any politician, a senator, but it is your first time running for that role. Now, you're given a period of 5 years. So the Kenyans conduct an interview process for you, which is the election process. And by voting, and that's why I said the citizens of this country who vote are the board of directors that appoint the executive. So we are dealing with the executive. The president is the chief executive of this republic. Now, after the first term, which is 5 years, we go back to the ballot, and you're correct in saying now this is where three things happen. Number one is accountability. Accountability for everything that has happened in that term, because again, the buck stops at the top. Leadership is held to account at the very top. So no matter whether it's a cabinet secretary that faulted here, or this person or that person, this entity or that entity, this state corporation, you are in leadership. You are supposed to do everything it takes as an executive to deliver on the job you're given. Most contracts today for work are performance-based, which means you get performance management and performance metrics against which you'll be measured.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say, every time I hear people complaining about leaders, one, you're the ones who appointed this leader. So once you make that decision, give them the time, give them the term, and give them the space to lead and do everything it takes. Because you hired them to do a certain job. Now, at the time they're done with their first term, you come back and now it's a performance appraisal. Which is number two. It is not just accountability, it's a performance evaluation and appraisal of how you have executed on your duties. And again, this is where the voter, the citizen, needs to become a very serious person, because every time they are pointing one finger at the leadership, there are other three fingers that are pointing at them, maybe even four, that are saying, you are the ones who brought us these leaders. So please be silent until it's your next time to evaluate these leaders, but take your evaluation role seriously. Just like your job. When you get to a point at the end of the year or whatever agreed term, you look at the performance metrics. They're called KPIs, the key performance indicators. They are key success indicators, KSIs. Others are called OKRs, objectives and key results. Essentially, you're being evaluated for your job. Now, there are only two ways. If you've done your job right, you get another term to continue doing the job, and then if you've not done it right, you get fired on the spot. It's as simple as that. So the citizen needs to take their role very seriously in terms of appointment at the first term, and then appraisal at the second term. And it shouldn't be about politics. By the time people are being bribed, what does that say about the people being bribed? By the time people are being confused with development projects, which are themselves a form of voter bribery, what does it say about that board of directors? And most importantly, by the time somebody is deemed to either have performed or not perform their duty, and the result of that performance appraisal does not reflect the job they've done, then you point the finger at those people, and they need to take accountability for that and responsibility. They live with the consequences of the actions. I'll say it, the last statement I'll say, the leadership is a direct reflection of the people. Yes.
Okay, and so the issue of wacha malize zake kumi aende, that one is not there.
No.
And it is something that we need to drive into the minds of Kenyans.
Correct.
That it is like this election coming, especially for every leader. And our president is looking for a second term. And many governors are looking for a second term. And I think it is capped. Only 10 years they can sit in that office.
Yes.
For Kenyans, they need to take it as a window of salvation. Save your country, save your county, save your constituency, and
it goes on both sides. Even the opposition that are fighting now to go into and get appointed for the first time, like I said in a previous episode, Kenya, we have recycled politicians. Very few of them are running for the first time. So the Kenyans also need to performance appraise them and evaluate for their roles that they held when they were in power. Don't just recycle people like that without thinking. So whoever is going to get the job should be the best person to do the job. They should be qualified based on past performance, whether it is this current president or the next one. Nobody is guaranteed a job. And we saw it in Hungary. We saw somebody who's regarded as a dictator has been in power for over 16 years. He used all state machineries. And like I said, for the previous election, election, even the state machinery was engaged, but that cannot defeat the will of the people if the people are serious. I
Okay.
do believe the Kenyan citizenry now is educated enough to make sober judgments, and the question is, will they actually exercise their mandate? Let people be bribed with projects and money and whatever, but when you go to the vote, there is a solemn responsibility before God and accountability for you to put the right leader in place.
Amazing. We
Yes.
move on. I don't
Yes.
know whether, Moredi, you have anything to add, because we are moving on now to
Yes, just
something else.
just one simple thing
Completely, yes.
to cap up what he had spoken
Yes,
about.
yes.
The leadership, I mean, the appointment and the appraisals is actually pushing into the two terms. You, after appointment, you are supposed to prove yourself within the first term. The second term, maybe we will check what you have done. But the moment you begin to desire to become a leader, you must do your thorough feasibility study, understand what you're getting into, understand the needs of the people, understand how you're going to solve or assist in mitigating the effect, you know, the impact. You should understand that. So within your manifesto, you know what you're supposed to do. So the moment you abandon your manifesto and inherit another ideology, it means you lose track of what installed you in position. Like, for instance, during the campaigns 2022, this housing project was supposed to be embedded on something we call the levy, not tax.
Okay.
You were supposed to, you know, when you pay a levy, it's money that is projected to be expended on a certain project. But on tax, that's the preserve of the government to decide where the money
And that's
goes.
where we are
So
headed in the
that is-
next conversation. Yes.
Yes, and that is why I was saying the failure that was there was that the government that came in under President William Ruto, we campaigned for the levy, that the houses were to cost 800,000, 820,000,
Yeah.
and they would not have been, I mean, there would be a threshold set for the rents.
Yeah.
That if it's a two-bedroom, is either 8,000 shillings or 10,000 shillings, depending on location and various other factors that would have been considered. Now, while we were selling that, it was acceptable. Then when
Okay.
it came to the 1.5% tax that was being promulgated by the opposition side, and he adapted it and carried it, it means now you fixed the Kenyans. And that's why you're hearing people complaining so much about the 1.5% tax. Because the president abandoned his campaign promise, his campaign track that he had set for himself for the leadership that he was to take over. So that is why we are saying that when we're having the appointment and the appraisals and whatever, we are saying that if you do not perform, because the performance is supposed to take place in your mind and the people you're going to discuss with to sell your agenda, that means you're not working. Now the implementation bit desires only 5 years, not 10 years.
Amazing, amazing. So it's up to you Kenyans to do the right thing. If you just allow the sloganeering and all this, and then you are carried away in the chorus, you will miss in the most important role to shape your own lives and give yourself progress. So we take it as a window of salvation, and you need to look at yourself. Are you better? Are you better under this leadership? Are you better under your governor? Is your county better under that governor? Is the constituency better under that member of parliament? And if you your life is not better, let them not promise. I don't like the issue of where our political leaders, they are willing to promise until they come out of office promising. We cannot continue living that kind of life. And as Kenyans, we must demand performance and delivery of services. And so, John has put it very well that KPI is a KPI, key performance indicators. We're going to apply them on our politicians this coming election. Let it not just be about 2 term. No, it is about we Kenyans. where we are, and whatever is happening in the country, whatever is happening in the constitution, whatever is happening in the county, if it is not pleasing, if it is not the right thing that Kenyans want, then we have to change the leadership, and we have to do it by all means. But if a leader has done the right thing, then you can give him another term, because it's a window of salvation. Okay, let's move on. In the second issue of conversation, and I am afraid that we have only a few minutes remaining. Look at this, it's 10:20 and we're supposed to be out by 10:30. So that means that issue has really taken a lot of time, but it's all for the Kenyans. But let's look at the oil prices, and when we begin to look at oil prices, I would rather than, instead of talking about oil prices, we just need to talk about the cost of living.
Yes.
Because right now, I have come to discover that the oil prices are just adding to already a difficult situation. And we need to know where are we as a country and what can be done so that now the Kenyans can feel a kind of reprieve. When we mention about cost of living, maybe Kabuki,
yes.
you start us off. Where are Kenyans in terms of cost of living?
And beyond cost of living, I would actually take it a step higher. You took it from fuel prices, which drive the cost of living, because most costs of the commodities will hinge on the logistics and supply chain, which is transportation. So fuel affects everything. Let's talk about the economy as a whole. I'll quote a famous political operative in the US. His name was James Kavoi. He was a campaign manager for Bill Clinton, who's considered one of the best US presidents in terms of balancing the budget, delivering a working economy. He actually gave a surplus. So James Kavoi said it's the economy, stupid, and he was answering the question, what should people evaluate? Again, I see the two topics as connected. The state of the economy, the health of the economy should be, again, the performance contract, like my brother well articulated. When people have a manifesto, that's you yourself sold an agenda to the people and saying, as a leader, if you give me the opportunity to lead, this is exactly what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a performance contract. We should evaluate based on that. And what James was saying, the first thing you look at is the economy. What is the health of the economy? Are you able to afford basic commodities? Are you able to afford the basic needs, food, housing, shelter, education, all these needs? So when you're talking about the current state of the nation, the fact that fuel prices are so high have driven the cost of living so high, and people's incomes are not being adjusted. There are issues of not just taxation, like my brother was talking about in the last topic, but there seems to be double and triple taxation, because areas that are not supposed to be taxed are being taxed and taxed again. This idea of VAT being reduced and cut by half just the other week, towards the end of the term when there's political motive behind it, we should not tolerate such things, because again, it's not fixing. So the answer, the direct answer to your question is very simple. The cost of living is too high, and nobody can say they don't feel it. You feel it in, again, transportation, commute, whether you are fueling a car or using public transportation or commuting in any way, you'll see those costs have gone up. Because of those costs going up, the cost of production has gone up. That means somebody who's using fuel, somebody who's using energy to produce goods and transport them to where you need them at your supermarket, the cost is going higher. What does that mean? The cost of basic commodities has gone up, the cost of living has gone up, and people's income have not been adjusted. So that is the number one performance appraisal evaluation criteria, based on the performance contract, where when they came into leadership, this team said, we are going to fix the economy. The question is, have they done so?
Okay.
Yes.
Moreidi, Muito, when we were, during the last elections in 2022, we focused so much on the national debt, and we felt like we are going to be overburdened in paying the debts. Yeah. We're going to, so we need some guidance and leadership, and we were electing on the basis of that. And but now the concern of many Kenyans and to ordinary citizens like me is the burden was the debt burden was threatening us. Now we no longer talk about it. We no longer talk about it. But at the same time, we are seeing a lot of money being thrown into newer projects. Now, the Kenyans are saying they are overburdened with the taxes. The UCRA is all over throughout the country, that they are overburdened, they are overtaxed. But are these taxes going to reduce our debt burden? Or I want you to relate the development that we are experiencing as a country versus the national debt that we have, and all this taxation. If we would be taxed, and after 5 years, we are told the debt burden was 9 trillion, let's say, for example. But now we have reduced it to like around 3 trillion. So Kenyans will say, okay, we have been overtaxed, but the debt burden has come down. And should we do development without considering the national debt? Because what should we enjoy? The development without checking our debt obligations? And if we are being taxed, where are those taxes going? And are they going to make Kenya more freer, more free from from the burdens that have been? You know where we're coming from already?
Yes.
Yes.
Always when you scrutinize the activities and the actions of any sitting government,
Yes.
you must check their language when they were seeking for the position.
Okay.
It was convincing that we have oil in Turkana, and we are at Ngamia 5 well, you know, and at some point the former president told us that you know, we are borrowing so that we can pay with the oil that we have in places like Turkana and many other places. We also have oil deposits in Lamu port area, you know, the coastline along Lamu. So we had a lot of hope that I think it is worth having such a president continue in 2017, because we will take care of our debts. But what happened? It was borrowing without payment. So it left 1.9 trillion that Kibaki had left them at to 9 trillion. You know?
Kibaki left how much?
1.9 trillion.
1.9 trillion.
Years.
Debt.
For 10 years,
Debt.
having inherited 960 billion debt from President Moi.
Okay.
Now, he only accumulated around about, call it 2 trillion. These other guys came in, and the current president was a deputy president in that government for 10 years.
Yes.
They took us from 2 billion to 9 billion. Today, we are discussing 15 billion. Borrowing
billion
pay,
or
trillion.
trillion.
Borrowing, you borrow 3 trillion to pay the interest, not the principal figure of a loan. You're paying the interest. So where does it leave us? You borrow, begin accumulating interest on the other side that you borrowed, and clear the interest on this side.
Okay.
We are at 15 trillion today. That's why when you hear people now, Kenyans coming
15 trillion.
Yes, we are at 15 trillion. It was being discussed that
Then it is
getting
through the
to that
ceiling.
point,
It is already through the ceiling.
it is already, the ceiling was actually at 12 trillion. Now today, where we are at right now, we are actually
Why is it
playing
that
around 15
conversation
trillion.
there? Because it is endangering the whole country.
Now the politics that is there right now, when they discover that you're talking about MV Paloma, we will discuss something else. We discuss Medu. You discuss goons.
Distraction.
You discuss
Yeah.
goons, you know. And while you're discussing goons, a certain proposal of a law is being slipped through, and it will have a presidential assent when it goes through, that the CS for Interior is going to fight goons from both quarters. What is the meaning of a goon? Goons are the ones who are aggressive. They attack, and they are found on the side of the government. So these other guys on this other side will just be victims of circumstance. Now let's leave that one aside. What I'm trying to say is that we are now suffering currently. We are not discussing the debts. We are not discussing accountability. Let Duale tell us, why should we discuss 8 billion when you have 104 billion, which was 103 times what you promised when you were campaigning, that we will only need to inject 800 million shillings to NHIF and accommodate every other disease, including chronic diseases. Now, when it comes now to leadership and you have already been appointed and you have all resources, you multiply that 801 billion shillings to, I mean, by 103 times to become 104 billion, which was released. And the moment it was released, the sitting CS then, I think it was Deborah, was declared redundant. Somebody who is not useful even to the ministry. Why? So that Duale can come in. The one who was claimed to have had shares in the company called Convergence. These are things we read from our major dailies that time when we were discussing Adani, that Duale is in Convergence. Now, the same guy is the one who is now coming to manage the 104 billion. Why shouldn't you experience the 50 billion plus that we have already lost, and now our able auditor general comes up again with claims of another 8 billion shillings. When a government behaves or rules or manages resources of the community with impunity, it's supposed to be a one-term. And that is where I'm saying these are things that you cannot avert. Because
I hope
when
you're
we
not
explain
campaigning on this platform.
Campaign will be campaign because I'll vote for someone, but I'm not campaigning for them. I was only trying to explain. I was only to explain how a government is supposed to carry itself.
Okay.
How do you get us? How do you borrow 3 trillion shillings? Is it every year, or I mean, in the 3 years,
Yes.
you borrow 1 trillion shillings, claiming to be dealing with, I mean, sorting out the issue of the debt that you found. Now, let me give you something that is that is a dynamic that takes place in the borrowings. If you go to a bank and offer a platform where they can distribute the finances they have to people in the form of loan, maybe whole of Nyanza in the form of loans, you get a commission. This is business.
Okay.
You had them say, tunakula munameza, tafuna muname, because you worked on preparing the commission, and we are now the ones eating it. So you just do the swallowing. You know, that is what happened around 2022, because the SGR deal had already gone through. But the commissions, when it was revisited, I mean, the people who get the commissions. Look at the times of guys like Chris Murungaru. They got commissions. If you can purchase our jet fighters from Czechoslovakia, we will give you a commission. Anybody gets a commission, including the heads of states. They get commissions.
Okay. All right.
Now, when the money has now landed for the project, we begin now to hear such cases of embezzlement. This is now embezzlement. Embezzlement does not happen when there is an oversight over those projects. We have the National Assembly, we have the management, there are the committees that have been set up to oversight. Unless one chooses to become a person of integrity and principles, principled person, and respect who they are, their dignity, that kind of person is the only one who can take a project from the beginning to the end for the good of the Kenyans.
Okay.
And that is what I'm saying, that it is time that we become accountable and responsible for whatever we do.
Okay. Now, they say when you realize, when you discover you are in a hole, what you do, you stop digging. You stop digging. That's what they say.
Yes.
And that's how they teach us. And those are the instructions we get from lecturers everywhere. And our leaders do not seem to have stopped digging.
Yes.
As a right-thinking Kenyan, I knew that there could be a few taxes here introduced. And as we are transitioning from that term that started in 2017, ending at 2022, as we are transitioning into the new term, I knew maybe the cost of living for Kenyans may go up a little bit, because we seemed to be in a hole of debts.
Yes.
And I knew that there could be. Personally, I was proposing when this government comes in, maybe they will deal a lot with the sin taxes. They will be sin tax and impunity penalties to gather money, and then maybe with all these, they stop the corruption. They block all the holes, and they're opening the loopholes so that now money can be retained. It is unfortunate that we are losing money into corruption when we still have the debts we have. Do you think all this cost of living that has gone higher will leave us better after this term?
No. These are business basics. Like I said, ideally, Kenyans should evaluate the government as if it was an organization or a business.
Yes.
So in a business, there are very simple basics. There's revenue, how money comes in from different sources. And then there are your costs and expenses. And then you're either left with what we call the bottom line. Either you're profitable or you're making a loss. So when the government was coming in, we were already in very deep trouble in terms of debt. Especially when you talk of foreign debt, when you talk of commercial debt, when you talk of government to government debt, when you talk of debt borrowed from, the international organizations, these, global lenders. I just saw in today's Daily a report saying the IMF, remember they had frozen some billions and said that an audit was required about corruption. So they are saying the government, the report came out, but the government has not acted, so they are no longer willing to negotiate until the government acts on the IMF governance report. So from a governance point of view, we have problems because, again, report card. Every student who goes to school gets a report card, and it shows how they've done. So the report card for this government should include, have they been good stewards of resources, and have they managed costs? So one is revenue. Revenue comes, again, we seem to be a borrowing culture in this government, which means we are always working on loan. Why does this government seem to have such a high affinity for loans and also almost addicted to them? It's because people are making deals in between. And I mentioned it in a previous program. One of the things the citizens is really paying for that has driven up the cost of living is these private deals that get done anytime the government is borrowing, anytime the government is getting money to do projects, and that's why they look and seem and are addicted to this borrowing and this money for all these projects. Secondly, there's a distinct issue of managing cost. For example, revenue comes in terms of taxes. You've said very well, people did expect the taxes to, to be implemented. But now you start asking the questions, how come there's revenue coming from borrowing, which the Kenyan citizen will have to pay? Actually, there's a per capita, so you can divide the Kenyan debt into per head. And then we're still overtaxing people. And those two things are revenue streams. Money is coming in, even though half of it will be repaid, these debts. The other one is revenue coming in, but still the services are not being provided. The cost of living is still going higher. The projects are not being prioritized properly. The national debt is going high. We are approaching now like the US, where the debt is so obscene, it is what the Bible calls usurious. It's gone to a point where now they struggle to pay the interest on the debt. They keep raising their debt ceiling. We are already there, and Kenya seems to always be struggling with this. I mean, this issue I've just talked about, the IMF governance audit, is all about raising the debt ceiling so we get more debt. Why are we getting into more debt? So the issue is there needs to be proper fiscal management. We need to live within our means as a government, and we need to have better a leadership and governance prerequisite for any leader is to manage resources properly, manage cost and expenses. This, again, obscene spending. Priorities don't seem to be, the basic needs should come first. Things like education, healthcare. We are seeing scandal after scandal left and right, as my brother pointed out, but it all points to failure of leadership in managing resources properly.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we have completely run out of time.
Yes. If you allow me 1 minute,
but I'll give you at least 2 minutes each, so that you wrap up. Already.
Thank you. I just wanted to expound on, to clarify on what, to be specific with the figures that I came up with.
Yeah.
The reason why we are arriving at 15 trillion, that is by 2027, is considering the rate at which they are borrowing. If they don't change, then we'll be 15 trillion. Because as it stands right now, it's 3 years, and we have come from 9 trillion to 12.6 trillion. That's the correct figure. That's where we are at. That is an increase of
12
4 trillion, 0.6 trillion within 3 years. So if we try to project where we will be at the end of the first term, we'll be at 15 trillion.
Okay.
On the minimum. Okay? So give this such a leadership, give it 10 years. Where are we going to be? We'll be at 20 trillion, you know, debt. And that means we will have no state. It will be a totally failed state, because if there are no resources to run every other department of the government, then it will be a totally failed state. Mine, lastly, is to encourage Kenyans to stay informed, and whether they will remain on 2-term, 1-term, let them understand that there must be a basis. It's not just a sycophantic mentality that I will support this because he looks like this or is like this. It is, what does he stand for, you know? And the projection, which is hypothetical, we'll leave it to God and do our part as support that one and ensure that everybody understands when they're going to the ballot box in 2027, they know why they're voting in or voting out somebody and for what reasons.
Okay.
That is the bottom line. So remaining 1-term, 2-term, that's a good thing. I'm 1-term, personally, and it's always good to have a stand. There was a time when I was a journalist, we were told we become neutral. When we're doing analysis, we want to become neutral. But when it comes to my vote, I will definitely be partisan. So it's normal. Everybody is encouraged by the law to be partisan.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, Bwana Murithi. And as a Kabugi, you come in, it's good to know that, and let every Kenyan hear this, you will have to feel the pain of paying this debt. You will. If it is not yet paid, you are yet to feel the pain of paying 12.6 trillion.
Correct.
So when we are voting, these are things that should be playing in our minds.
The bottom line is the math is not mathing.
The math is not mathing.
It's not mathing. The economy basics are not in good. We're not in good fiscal health as a country.
Yes.
You talk of the 12 point something trillion, but remember, one, there's interest on these loans, and then there's collateral. There's this mortgage. What is being mortgaged every time these loans are taken, and a lot of money is going into private hands because of corruption, and still the Kenyan citizen, like you say, is held to account for it. They are on the hook for that payment, and we will feel the pain for certain. So it's important that an imperative that the Kenyan citizen understands these basics and remember that where we are right now is not sustainable. And if we are not careful, what we are feeling is the results of or consequences of the decisions that were made at the last election. Like you said, there is a window now to correct, and we must have zero tolerance for the corruption that has so permeated this society, because part of the cost of living is a cost of corruption. Let me call it a corruption surcharge. And it is the greatest percentage of both the debt, the interest on the debt, and every pain that the Kenyan citizen is feeling in terms of the cost of living, in terms of the economy overall. So the economic health is very poor. This patient is in ICU. This patient, like my brother said, may die. So it's incumbent upon Kenyans to give this economy,
we have already broken the ceiling.
Yes, and we need a new medical team looking at this patient and a new point of view, because
the
patient is the Kenyan economy, the Kenyan country. It's in poor economic health, and it's not sustainable. If we continue like this, that patient in ICU will die.
Hey.
Yes.
All right. Okay, let's end it there. And we are looking forward to next Friday. When we come here, we just want to have a time to discuss the national projects that have been announced. They are out there in public domain. We know we want to build a new airport. We want to build the Mau Summit. Is it Rironi Mau Summit? We want to do the Nairobi River. We want to do as we prepare to come on Friday, the question that should be playing in our minds is: are we biting more than we can chew?
Priorities.
Think about that, and see you next Friday. And from all of us here in the studio is bye-bye and see you Friday.